when I explain my adult life to people, they're like, that doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, well, you have to live in my body to understand, I guess. So my current position is I work in operations for actually a prosthetic manufacturing company.
Yeah.
So I, every single day, am thinking about, talking about, and serving the amputee community. It is my everyday, right?
Yeah.
But that wasn't how it started for me at all.
Yeah.
Like if you would have told my college going 20-year-old self that this would be where I'm at 10 years later, like I wouldn't have believed that I'd be like working for a prosthetic company.
Yeah.
But kind of in a nutshell, what happened in my experience specifically is that I was always a theater kid growing up. I loved being on stage. I think a piece of that looking back is that it was a way for me and my different body to control the stares that I was inherently receiving anyway.
Which makes sense because it feels like you can direct where the staring is going.
That's right. And I can impress you with the performance that I'm giving you, right? So I have control over your thoughts around me in a positive way versus maybe a way that's pity or I feel sorry for you or, whatever.
Yeah, completely.
Right. So, I mean, looking back, I think that's a big piece of the theater puzzle for me in particular.
Yeah.
But I went away to school and I actually got my degree in directing and theater management.
Mm-hmm.
So it was my dream to go live in New York and to work on Broadway shows. And so right out of college, I moved to New York City and I started working backstage a Broadway show and was on a career path to do like management work within that space, within the theater space. However, what became too hard for me to ignore was the fact that I wanted to be on stage, right? Like I still wanted to be in the middle of it, literally.
Yeah.
But I literally did not think that that was an option because I had never once seen a body like mine on a stage.
Right.
Literally never once. So I ended up finding a loophole, and that loophole was pageantry. So in the pageant world, your literal job is to interview and try out being yourself. Like all you have to do is show up as yourself. And I was like, that's great, I can do that. And also you want me to sing a song, even better. So I ended up going the pageantry route and ended up competing and winning the title of Miss Iowa, which is the state here in the states that I grew up in. And that's a year-long job. So I went to compete at Miss America. And that journey was wild for me because what happened was when I won and actually went to Miss America, there was so much focus from the world on the fact that my different body was showing up in a space that's very much a box. Like when you think of these pageants, it's very much a box of a person that is going to those spaces. And it freaked me out. Nobody had taught me the history of disability. Nobody had taught me, why it was a big deal that a body like mine was showing up on that stage. Like, no, I had not had any of the foundational education in my community. So instead, the experience for me was really, really traumatic. I just sank into myself and sank into anxiety and sank into depression and didn't understand what was happening. So coming out of that, it was like, what I realized was cool. It's really cool to be a part of the disability community. Where are my mentors? Where are the books I can read? Where's the correct messaging on what my body is and how the world reacts to it? And really was able to feel empowered in that way. But at the same time, that literal experience of going on that journey and going to Miss America and experiencing that set my life on a completely different trajectory. So immediately afterwards, after that year of work, I continued on just speaking full time. I spoke full time for like 3 years, and then kind of continued on into different disability spaces and have landed here in a prosthetic world, which has been a really good fit for me. But it all was from that like trauma of trying to figure out what the hell the world was doing and talking about me and what is happening? Why didn't anybody teach me these things? So I hope that made some sort of sense. I tried to keep it short.
Yeah, no, it does. And I would love if you're okay to talk about a bit more about the whole Miss Iowa, Miss America journey, because I think what you said is that when you said you didn't feel like you were equipped with the knowledge, and but also you didn't understand why the world was taking such an interest in you. How was that experience? Because I can only, in my head, obviously, like, I'm obviously from the UK, pageants here are not as big as they are in America. Like, that type of life you don't really hear about it, you don't really see about it. And I was wondering, like, from my like very limited knowledge of that world, it very much seems to be like a type of person that fits into it. It tends to be like skinny, like probably blonde, probably white, which is what we both are. So I'm doing a really good job of explaining right now. But generally like a very beautiful person then goes on to make themselves even more beautiful for show. And in my head, that's what it is, right? And it's true. I've never seen another body that looks like mine on that stage. So for you, what was that experience like?
It was crazy. Yeah, wild. It was really hard because up until this point, the messaging to me was, you are no different. So the fact that I went from winning this title, and here's the thing is because I'd grown up in my body, I realized that there would be conversation around my body. I realized that it was going to be a piece of it, because it's always going to be a piece of whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
But the extent to what it became, I had no understanding of. So I went from winning one night to literally being like world news the next day. And that really freaked me out because, first of all, I didn't understand the way that news outlets talked about us. So that was one layer. Like every single story that was printed all around the world was, how inspiring is it that this girl with a different body is going to Miss America, right? It's the us versus them messaging, where, you know, it's that pity piece of it. I competed right alongside all of these other girls and feel like I won fair and square. You know, I'd like to believe that. And yet the focus is how inspiring it is, and how
well done you for living your life. Like,
well done. Good for exactly. And so that was very confusing to me. Like I've since come to learn that type of messaging within the news media is, you know, called inspiration porn, you know, where
that's a great and awful term all at once, isn't it? Like, because it does exactly what it says on the tin.
It synthesizes it exactly. It is. So I've since learned that, but like that was a confusing layer. Like nobody was there to come alongside me and be like, this is a thing that people do to us, and here's what it means. And yeah, so in reality, like looking back on it, what that experience should have been was, instead of those inspiring messages being written about me, the news should have been writing, why is it that it's taken these pageant competitions until the 21st century to get a body with this variation on the stage? Like, what are the barriers that are clearly in place because we don't see other people like this on the stage? And also there was nobody there to explain to me that inherently me just stepping on that stage was a big deal. Like it was. But so I felt that pressure, but in a way that nobody was there to like educate me or teach me about. So I felt really, really, really singled out. I felt by the Miss America organization really, really used. I was a marketing tool for them, just to advertise, and that really sucked. And just all around felt really treated differently than everyone else, and just didn't know how to make sense of it, and didn't have a community surrounding me, because what I had been told was I'm no different, instead of leaning into, no, I'm different and that's okay, but like here are the realities of that. Like I'm, you know, I hope that kind of made sense.
No,
I don't,
and it does, because I think like you said before, like you didn't necessarily have like the community of people that were going to be the people that would help explain things to you that actually, you know, like average Joe blogs or the non-disabled community don't understand. Because there are differences, right? There are differences, and this is not to single out like any minority group, but there are differences between being disabled and not being disabled, and there are some things that are unwritten and unsaid, and there are other things that are just so glaringly obvious that they smack you in the face. But if you don't know what you don't know, how are you going to know? Plain and
yeah.
simple. And to like to go through that almost like all by yourself, and to have like, you know, really mixed emotions. Like on the one hand, it's incredible that you are on this world stage and you are doing something that is, you know, benefiting so many people. However, on the other hand, you feel like you're being singled out and you can't necessarily understand why. Like no wonder it was such a like, you know, you said yourself it was traumatic. Like no wonder, because there is so much cognitive dissonance between you can do what you want to do, and then it's like, oh, like well done.